when we found out that we were having triplets, we had a conversation with the doctor about, she was basically telling us how difficult it was going to be, how hard it might be to actually succeed, that, this, that, and the other. And
it was a conversation that told us everything that would go wrong.
Right.
And that out of everything, something wrong was going to happen.
Right. And that's when she brought up about selective reduction, said you want to selectively reduce the pregnancy. And we patiently let her talk. And then when she was done, I said, that is not what we believe. That's not what we're doing. We're here to succeed. These kids are a blessing to us. We're going to go forward. I understand it may be hard and challenging, but we're going to do that. And there was a point at around, was it 19 weeks? That they said that Julie had placenta previa, which meant that one of the babies was over the
was attached too low in the uterus.
Right.
And that can be dangerous. And if it was we watched it the whole pregnancy from early on, because if it's going to correct itself, it corrects itself by 18 or 19 weeks. And if it doesn't correct itself, by then it's not going to change.
Right. So then we had, we got to, at 22 weeks, Julie had severe hemorrhaging, and I had to rush her to the hospital and get her up to get her up there to the doctors. And they were saying that, okay, so she's hemorrhaging, this is really bad. Clearly it was really bad. And the doctor came in late that night and he came in and asked me a question. He said, if something happens right now, what do you want us to do? And I looked at him and I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, well, if she goes into labor or something else happens and we have to rush her into surgery, who do you want us to save? And I just kind of stunned. I was like, well, no. He's like, no. And I just told him no. I said, that's just not, no, I'm not going to answer that question. That's not what's going to happen. And I think that this is a big point where we both just stood together in our faith saying, listen, we've heard the negativity, we've heard what could happen, we're told what will happen, all this, that, and the other. And that's just not how it's going to be. I said, I basically told the doctor to get out because he wasn't happy. He wanted an answer and I wasn't going to give it to him. I said, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to answer that question. We trust God. We're going to get through this. Those babies are not coming tonight. Nothing more is going to happen to my wife. We're going to get through this.
It was apparently looking really bad, which we found out later on. That the nurses and the doctors pretty much didn't think that any of it was going to happen. They thought the boys were going to come early, and they came in to give us what they call the care and comfort speech. And that is, it was about 23 weeks at that point in time, and they said, if you give birth to them right now, do you want us to just give them care and comfort, which meant that we would make them comfortable until they died. And I'm in the hospital bed, and I was plugged into every medicine and had IVs and couldn't sit up. I wasn't allowed out of bed. And I looked at the doctor and I said, I know I may be laying in this bed right now. I said, but I know my God, and these boys are not coming, and there's not going to be a problem. Because he said, have you ever dealt with anybody who had severely retarded children? I said, this isn't going to happen. I said, I know my God, and we're making it through this. I feel bad because the doctor then leaned back and said, okay. And that doctor never came back in to see us again.
We never saw him again.
After I'd been in the hospital for 5 weeks on bed rest, they sent me home. And they came in one Monday, and it was actually our anniversary. And the doctor said, I was thinking about you all weekend long. He said, I want to send you home because you haven't had any hemorrhaging at all now, and we feel you're more likely, if you stay here, to have something happen like get an infection, a staph infection or something like that. So we wanted to send you home. The hardest part about once we got home is I would still go through and have contractions, and I was on some medicines that were supposed to stop it, and if it didn't stop it, we had to go into the hospital. And that was a struggle because it was one of those things we wanted to do what was responsible and what the doctors told us, but at the same time we knew and had the faith to know that we were still going to make it further than we were. So we realized that what we had to do is we'd go in when the doctors told us to, which was sometimes at 1 or 2 in the morning. But each time we went in, we'd say, hey, all right, we're here, but we know we're not going to stay. So we had to keep going back in and going back in and going back in.
You sit there for 3 hours, they do their thing.
They do their thing, but then we'd come back home. Each time we'd come back home and get to be here. And then by the end of the pregnancy, we had vasal previa. We got another previa, vasal previa. And that was where one of the boys was attached too low. And if we had gone into labor, then there was a chance that if I'd started into labor, that he would have bled out.
With all the warnings and fear that the doctor, our main doctor, gave us at the very beginning, she said, okay, I've seen women that jog all the way through their twins and triplets and whatever, all this stuff, but here's the reality. This is what happens. You have handicapped children, all of these warnings, everything that was given to us. Going through all of this, watching the nurses too. The nurses, the same thing. You're not going to make, well, the nurses were good. They weren't without faith, but they were checking off the weeks. They were really happy. We end up in the hospital right at the end for a couple days. Doctor says, all right, it's time, let's do this. We go in, we have the babies. They're born at 34 weeks, and there's not a single problem with them. They're in the NICU for a week because they're too young to know how to suck on a bottle. So they're basically learning how to suck on a bottle. They feed them through a gavage tube. All we had some really great doctors in there. They're saying, listen, we've done all these tests, we've done all these different things. There's nothing wrong with your children. Just nothing at all. And as we went on with the children, as they grew up and we went back for more doctor's visits, that sort of thing, our doctor would do more things. He said, they're going to challenge you. These kids are going to challenge you. Because to the doctor, they're very responsive, they're quick or whatever. He just said, they're going to challenge you. And that was kind of like a blessing, like, see, we definitely trust in God on this, because there's man's wisdom, there's science, and all of that has its place, but in the end you always trust in God. You always go by what he says. And we knew that, trying for a long time to have children, finally having the children, knowing that it was a blessing and a gift from God, that's what it was going to be, that these kids were important to the world.